Welcome to Figure Feedback. My name is Jeremy, and today is going to be a first for me because I'm going to be trying out a 3D scanner for the very first time. And the 3D scanner that I'm going to be using is from 3DMakerPro, and it is their Seal model. Now, 3DMakerPro was kind enough to send this to me so that I can check it out and make this video. And I have been using this 3D scanner, and well, I've got some thoughts on it from a complete amateur, complete beginner. Now, first, if you're interested in this, you can pick it up from their website. As I'm looking at it right now, the Seal sells for $699, and then there's also a light version of it as well, and the Seal Lite costs $359. It says that the differences between these two is that the Seal 3D scanner, the more expensive one, has a 24-bit color scan. The accuracy goes down to 0.01 millimeters as opposed to 0.02, and the resolution of it is 0.05 as opposed to 0.07. So I guess that means it's just that much better. But let me show you everything that they sent me. So it came inside of this case right here. And inside of this case, well, let me just show you these things here since they're already out. The first thing is this platform here. And along with the platform is also this turntable, and you can just put the platform on top of the turntable, and this is powered by USB. It actually uses a micro USB cable that comes with it. I wish it was USB-C, but you have to plug this into a power source separately. So I had a portable battery pack that I was using in order to get this turntable to just spin, and then you see it has all these little letters and stuff all over it. And that's just for the software that I'm going to show you in a second to help to eliminate the platform so that you can get a more cleaner 3D scan on the bottom of whatever it is that you're scanning. And this is considered a small format 3D scanner. So I wouldn't be using this to try to scan like big things, car parts, you know, stuff like that. But here is a look at the camera. Now, it is a nicely thick and chunky and heavy camera. It definitely feels like it's got some good stuff on the inside of it. It's not cheap feeling at all. It's metal, it's cold to the touch, and as you can see, you can screw a tripod in at the bottom of it. Here's a look at the camera lenses right there. And then this also came with a little table tripod. So it's got these legs that come out just like a tripod would, and then it's also extendable. It doesn't go up very high, but it was high enough for some of the things that I tried to do it on. And then it also has this ball joint right here that you can move around, and then you can tighten it and loosen it here. I mean, it's just like a normal tripod. And I already showed you the stand as well as the platform, but if you take a look at the case here, you can fit everything inside of this case, and it has these little pouches on the side. You can stick various things in there, and then that's where the hardware goes, and then everything zips down. All right, so with me being brand new to this, I really came into it with absolutely no idea what I was doing. So I want to let you know that this is by no means a comprehensive review of this product. This is just me trying it out for the first time as a newbie and just saying what my experience is like in case you have never done this before and you want to see what the experience might be like for you. So let's take a look at my experience with this and the JM Studio software that's used to handle all of the 3D scans. So this app is called JM Studio, and this is what's going to allow me to do a 3D scan of an object. In this case, it's going to be this Deborah figurine from Dragon Ball Z. All right, so as you look at the program, there's a couple different scan modes we can do. We can do easy scan, which is a handheld scanning mode. We hold the camera in a portrait mode and scan all around the figure, and you'll reposition it in order to get as much coverage as possible. Or table scan, which is what I'm going to do, which is going to utilize this turntable. It's going to rotate 360 degrees, and then the camera is going to stay fixed on the tripod. So I'm just going to go to table scan. And then when I go to this mode, the camera all these lights are going to start flickering. And then you can also see on the left side, there's this gauge that's going to let me know how far or how close I am away from the figure in order to make a good scan. So it says excellent right now, but if I were to move too close to it, it'll say too close. If I were to go back too far, it's either going to be out of sight or it's going to be too far right there. So I need to find a nice happy medium where the figure is centered, but I still can capture as much of it as I can. So let's just say right there is where I want to be. Now, down here, it says initial. And what that does is basically it's going to graph an area of the turntable so that when it's all said and done, it can just clip out the turntable away from the actual figure. So I'm going to pick the figure up and I'm going to hit initial. See, the entire platform turns red at that point. Let that go for a few seconds. All right. And now I'm going to take this figure and put it right back to where it was. As you can see, we're still in excellent condition. And now I'm going to hit scan and I'm going to turn this turntable on so that it can rotate. All right, so off we go. And right now it's just scanning the geometry of this figure. There is another mode that lets it scan the texture of it as well. But we're just going to focus on the geometry for right here and right now. And I can stop this just by clicking on this box here at the bottom with all the numbers going up, or I can just wait a couple handfuls of seconds because it's going to stop itself just like it did just now. And it's going to build out that geometry and I'll be able to see what it captured and how good of a job it did. All right, so here is the model. And as you can see, it did a reasonably decent job, but as you can see over here, we have some gaps right there that aren't quite filled in. So in order to fix that, we need to do another scan. So I can go down here to append, and this is just going to run another scan that can then be used on top of the scan that we already just did. So I'm going to hit scan again, and it's going to rescan this object. All right, so this is what the second scan looks like. This is the first scan on top of the second scan. And just for good measure, let's go ahead and do it one more time. Let's do a third scan. So this is the results of the third scan. So what I can do now is combine all three of these. But first I want to get rid of this right here, this platform. So I'm just going to hit Control on my keyboard and then click this pink area and then hit delete. And it's going to get rid of that platform. Let's go to the next one. Control, click, delete. Next table scan, Control, click, and delete. All right, so now we have all three of these here. And with all of these eyeballs highlighted, I'm going to hit align. And it's going to take all three of those scans and it's going to try its best to merge them all into one. All right, so this is what it's managed to do, combining all three. So let's just say I'm like, okay, this is fine. Let's just go with this here. So I'm just going to say, okay. Process, and as you can see, this is what he looks like, and he is not perfect. As you can see, it's got a little bit of this weird drippage coming down here from this Dragon Ball. There's a little piece of this base that's kind of torn off, but him in general, like the textures or the geometry on him still looks fairly decent. Now, I did run this scan before and it came out looking a little bit better than this, and I did 3D print it, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in a moment. But let's just say I wanted to do a texture mapping on him as well. So what I'll do is I'll delete this fusion part, and instead I'm going to do append, and this time instead of geometry I'm going to do texture. Just like this, and this is going to be in color. So let me get my turntable back up and running. Hit scan, Now it's going to be doing some texture mapping, and I'm only going to run this one time, and you'll be able to see what that looks like when it's done. All right, so this is what the texture looks like. Again, got some gappage here and there, but let's just say instead of running another scan, I'm just going to roll with this. So again, I'm just going to get rid of this base here, and then highlight all of the table scans, including the texture, and align all of these together. All right, and now I will just process this with everything combined. All right, and here's what it looks like, everything combined. And I will say for the most part, this looks pretty good, with the exception of like this weird under spot right here in the base having this chunk taken out of it. But other than that, I say they did a pretty good job of this figure. But let me show you what it looked like when I 3D printed it and have it now in physical form. All right, so let's show you that Deborah model. Now first, this is the original one right here. And then this one is the one that I scanned and then 3D printed in resin. Now, let me just tell you, this is smaller than this. And the reason for that is when I 3D printed this, I put it on another plate with some other stuff that I was printing that I scaled down to 75%. So that's why this one is smaller than this one. But I still wanted to just sort of get a sense of, well, how accurate roughly could this have been? So I took this and I measured it with these calipers here from kind of like the top of his head without the spikes to the bottom of the base, and it came to around 65 millimeters. And since I scaled this guy down to 75%, he came out to be like around 48, 49 millimeters. So at least from that perspective, it shows me that if I had scaled him properly to 100%, then they would have been pretty much around the same size. That's just an unscientific analysis from me. But let's take a closer look. All right, so here's the 3D scan of Deborah. This was everything, all of the regular 3D scans, and then the texture, the geometry, and the texture scan that I ran all the way around. It even replicated the little hole in his back, which all of these little figures of this type have, and I'm not sure why, but it captured all of that. And then also the base that I failed to clean up properly because I'm just not familiar enough with the software to really know how to clean things up. So even that little imperfection there from the scan, you know, it printed it out just like a resin 3D printer should. It doesn't know any better. I mean, he looks okay. It does look a little bit soft though, I think. Some of the details are definitely soft on him. I don't see the stars of the Dragon Balls, unfortunately. But, you know, for the most part, I think he looks good. It's just that he's just not very sharp as far as those details go. If I bring up the original model here, so you can see how this guy, you know, he just doesn't look as sharp. Granted, it's grayscale, it's not color, whatever. If you paint it, you can probably bring some of that stuff out. But just right off the bat, you know, you can definitely tell that this is a 3D scan version of it and not just like an unpainted prototype. But as far as geometry goes, I think it did a pretty good job of capturing the shapes and how everything looks, and then just exporting that as an STL file and 3D printing it. Now, this was a best case scenario for me because I tried to scan a number of different things with this scanner with varying results. So for example, I tried to scan a Lego brick and the Lego brick was yellow. The scanner was having a really difficult time picking it out and I wasn't able to get a proper scan on that. And then I also saw that if you're trying to scan things that are, for example, black, the scanner also has a difficult time picking up things that are black. And they even tell you this when you look through like some of the support materials and whatnot, and it's recommended that you use some type of matte spray or something on it in order to help the camera to pick up things that are painted black. Also ran into this weird thing when I was trying to scan a small figure, you know, kind of like this, but for some reason their feet kept getting confused with this base here. So when I was doing just a table scan so I can eliminate the platform easily, for some reason the very bottom of the figure was being incorporated into that base so that their feet would be deleted. But it didn't happen with some things, but it happened with other things, and I'm not too sure exactly why. But, you know, it was just part of the whole process of trying to learn the software, which I think is the hardest part of this whole experience to me. The JM Studio software, I think, was the most difficult aspect of this whole thing, because it would seem that all you have to do is connect the camera to the computer and then you start scanning stuff, and then it comes back with some really cool looking geometry, and then you export it and you print it and everything is great. But there are layers to this. I'm learning this whole 3D scanning thing, at least with this particular device. Post-processing is something that is a very important part of it, to be able to clean up the little bits that did not scan properly or just look kind of weird, being able to effectively eliminate the base completely so that the bottom of the scan is just super clean. And I know that it's possible, but for someone just starting out, I think that's going to be more difficult than they may anticipate. It was more difficult than I anticipated. And being able to navigate around those difficulties is something that requires time and a little bit of study and practice so that you can get it right. The other thing that I ran into is the alignment process when you do multiple scans in order to capture the most detail. Fortunately, with this model here, everything worked great as far as just automatically aligning everything. But I also had experiences when it just did not work properly at all. And then you have to manually align it. And it seems simple enough to do it, but I do think that it could be explained better how to properly align it. It's just a matter of taking these dots and putting them in pretty much the same position across multiple scans. But it was just kind of a little bit confusing to me as far as which one should I use? Which one should I compare it against? What is this picture on the bottom of the screen? Is that a combination of the two that I just did, or is that something that stands alone? And, you know, I just like those things to be more laid out for me, so I'll know exactly what I'm getting into from the very beginning. And the software itself, it runs a little slow. I ran it on both a not very strong computer, a Windows Surface laptop, and I also ran it on my bigger desktop computer. It's not top of the line, but it has a NVIDIA RTX 3060 graphics card. I can play the latest games on high with no problem. But the software, when it comes to processing and rendering everything out, depending on how many scans that I did, it took like 10-15 minutes, maybe even a little bit more on some scans, to get everything situated so that I could, you know, look at the final product. And that took quite a while. So you can imagine on the Windows computer, it took even longer, and it was pretty rough on the battery. So as a complete newbie to 3D scanning, I think that this particular product is going to require a lot more practice than you might expect. It seems easy enough. Point the camera at something, look at all the flashes on the screen, and you can see it being scanned. But that's only the very first part of it. You still have to know how to properly post-process. You have to understand the little quirks that this scanner is capable of doing and what it's not capable of doing when it comes to scanning certain colors and items of certain textures. If it's shiny, if it's metal, it's going to have a harder time. So you need to figure out a way to mitigate that so that the scanner can pick up on it. And then the software itself, I think, could use some tuning up to make things easier. But to me, it definitely was not really a plug and play, just scan your whole house, is going to be completely fine experience. It is something that you still need to dedicate yourself to in order to get the best results. I've seen people create some amazing scans with this, so I know that it's possible. But when you're just starting out, it's going to take some time. So that's my experience with the Seal 3D scanner from 3D Maker Pro. Again, if you are more experienced with this and you want to try this out or any of the other 3D scanners, because they have a few available, you can just check the link in the description, check out their website and see what they have on offer. But I'm very curious to see where this technology goes in the future and how much more easier it can be with future products so that people can truly have a more pick up, scan, and play experience. So thank you all so much for watching. Till next time, take care of yourselves. I'll speak to you soon.